I Will Not Break, which
Thank
sounds
you.
like something from the sick. I think it sounds like something from the Sickness era. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
what you guys were going for,
I,
but
when we create these days, brother, we're not trying to target any particular era. We're just writing from our hearts.
so I'm so happy to be here with David Draymond. I can't believe it's been 25 years of The Sickness. And The Sickness is one of the only albums that I actually remember buying. I remember the exact place I was when I bought it because I'm from the south side of Chicago. And every concert I would go to, you guys would hand out this little cassette tape.
Oh
And
yeah.
it had Down with the Sickness and the game on it, I believe. And one
Hmm.
side was a smiley face, and the other side was like how would you describe that old Disturbed logo? Like an angry face, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is that how you?
That was the first incarnation of the guy, right? That's what ended up
Yeah.
becoming the three-dimensional version on the 10,000 Fists record. In the early days, it was just that two-dimensional face.
So every concert I would go to, the Aragon, the House of Blues, the Riv, the Vic, I was in high school. You
Yeah.
guys would hand me these little black cassette tapes. And I wanted to see you guys. We had this thing called the Chicago Reader. It would always say
Mhm.
Disturbed is playing at Champ's Rock Bar, which was so close to my house. I was like, I don't know, 19. I couldn't get in. I was underage. So I went to Columbia College. I would always walk to the Orange Line. I'd get on at Adams and Wabash. There was a Tower Records right next to that stop. And I'm in there, I always just go in there after school looking around and I see The Sickness. And I'm like, whoa. And there were 2 concert tickets in the CD for your album release party at the Metro.
Yep.
So I don't know why there were tickets in those. Did you remember? Like, why? I don't
Because
know
we
why
put
this.
them in there. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. And so
We were trying to get people to come. It was kind of an important show, you know what I mean? So giving them away, selling them, we weren't about making money at the time. We weren't about selling our own tickets. We'd give them away. We didn't care. We just
Yeah.
wanted bodies in the room. And we were definitely our own, street team in many ways.
Yeah.
If there were 4 shows going on in Chicago at a given night, if there was one at the Aragon, one at the, UIC Pavilion, one at United Center, we'd hit them all. The band
Oh,
would split up with all of our promotional materials. And to me, that was always the easiest way to get directly to the fans. Here are the fans coming out of another great rock show. Well, here, if you want some more of this, different flavors, same kind of family, come on over and check us out. So it fostered this great sense of community. It fostered this great sense of like brotherhood and sisterhood, and I loved it. Those days were really, really magical days back then.
and it was such a fresh sound because there was nothing when The Sickness came out. There was nothing that like you have your influences, like you said, like Bruce Dickinson. I mean, but you don't sound like Iron Maiden. You have your own. You Disturbed is Disturbed. You have the Disturbed
Thank you.
sound always. So that was such a fresh sound at the time because, like you said, that wasn't popular.
I definitely, had a tremendous amount of inspiration from guys like Jonathan Davis. That first Korn record was massive for me. Chino Moreno from the Deftones, both those guys wielding uh, rhythm in their vocal deliveries, the way that they did were hugely inspirational for me. Guys like Maynard James Keenan from Tool, those first couple Tool records, his power, his resonance, his ethereal nature to his vocal delivery. All those guys were definitely huge influences in addition to the Ozzies, the Hetfields,
Yeah.
the Dickinsons, the Dios of the world. So they definitely were a huge part of who we became and who I became, for sure.
What do you think about the adventure that it used to be like as a rock fan? Because I feel like like I remember taking the train downtown, I was looking for the Danzig 3 video. I remember
Yeah,
I
yeah,
spent 7 hours going from record store to record store, train, walking home. Like
yeah.
that's an adventure that kids will. And even I remember waiting in line for concert tickets. It was an adventure. You'd walk there, there'd be a lottery, it would be a party. It's like that's gone now. What kids are
I
that's
miss
one
it.
thing that I feel bad
I
for
miss it,
kids.
and I feel that we have a generation of fans that unfortunately will never ever get to experience that. we've become so detached and so disconnected from everything with the help
Yeah.
of technology. Um, we don't have physical packaging anymore. I used to really get into getting records, opening them up, reading all the liner notes. Who were they
Yeah.
thanking? Who was behind it? What inspired them? What were the lyrics? What were they saying? What were they trying to make me think? All of that. And I think a lot of that is now lost. I think our tendency to consume faster and faster and more rapidly, and our attention span, which gets shorter and shorter over the course of time, in many ways it's enabled so much more music to get on the table and to be heard, but on
Yeah.
another level there's so much that's getting missed, and there are opportunities that will never ever be able to be duplicated or replicated, that I really do feel bad that people won't ever get to experience. I agree with you.
Since we're talking about 25 years of the sickness, can we go back to those early days of Disturbed? How did you and Dan meet? What's the story there?
Well, he had an ad put out in the Illinois Entertainer, and that usually was the kiss of death. There was a curse associated with IE back in the day, that if you ever made the cover, that you would never end up being successful. Like it was always like
Yeah.
bands would fall apart after that, and so we were always terrified of that. But anyway, he had an ad, and I was I had been auditioning for the better part of a year at the time, um, band to band, and there were a bunch that asked me to join, but no one that really had original material that really kind of inspired me. No one that I felt like I wanted to dive into things with. So um, I answered his ad. He had a lot of those influences in the ad that I spoke about with you: Korn, Deftones, Tool, things of that nature, Sabbath, Maiden, Priest, Pantera. And we shared a lot of the same tastes, and I went to go audition for the guys at their rehearsal spot, and it was Michigan and Cermak was our old
Yep.
rehearsal spot. I walked in, and I lived on the north side at the time. I lived in Bucktown, Wicker Park area, and those guys were all Oak Lawn or areas
Yeah.
like South Side. And I walk in, typical stereotype North Sider. I got pair of jean shorts on and sandals and like a white t-shirt. I couldn't look any more north side if I tried. And I come in there with my roommate at the time, who was the guy who really got me into the new wave of heavy metal at the time. Whether it was Typo Negative or Korn or the Deftones, he really introduced me to all that. So he came to the audition with me, and I walk in, and the guys look like, they look like the members of Skid Row. It's like
Yeah.
Skid Row meets Testament, almost.
Yeah.
Like Mikey had his long, straight black hair, and his down to his ass, and the Dan and Fuzz both had feathered, flowing locks, and the pseudo flannel shirts with the acid watched frayed jeans, and the
Yeah.
Cloudburst All Stars with the tongues hanging out. I mean, the whole nine yards. And here I am. We couldn't look any more different from each other. And
And then you open your mouth, they're like, whoa.
well, it was something like that. They had they wanted me to try some stuff with them. And like, okay, well, can I hear your original material? And they're like, well, what are you going to sing to it? I'm like, well, I don't know yet. I haven't heard it. They're like, well, you're just going to come up with something on the spot? I'm like, yeah. Like, they're like, you don't want to do any covers? I'm like, well, you guys aren't a cover band, are you? I thought you guys had original material. They're like, no, 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 we've got originals. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, we could play covers too, but I'd really like to hear what you guys have written. And they're like, you're just going to come up with something. I'm like, yeah, just let me hear it. Does the microphone work? I'm like, yeah, okay. Give me the mic, turn on the PA, and let's give this a shot. And they're like, oh, okay, look at this guy. So they started playing, and took me a couple minutes, and I had a previous lyric that I had written for a different song, for one of my previous projects. And I, just started humming a melody in my head. And when I was ready, I just started spitting it out. And, you know, by the end of my attempt, they finished the song and they stopped. And then they're like, you just came up with that? I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, they were trying to hide the shit-eating grins that were developing on their
Yeah.
faces, you know? And I was very, very, very unsure. Very unsure. They were very heavy. Um, they were very much Pantera-esque at that time. Their previous singer, when they used to call themselves Brawl, a guy named Eric was singing for them, and he was very much from the old Phil Anselmo school of vocal delivery, very guttural, very, very abrasive vocal delivery, and I wasn't used to that. And I was trying to do my version of what I thought was appropriate for the song. Well, that song ended up becoming Want, one of the
Wow.
on the Sickness record that
Yeah.
very first day.
Wow.
So it was magic from day one. And I remember being at home with my roommate and talking about the experience with him and expressing to him that I was unsure. I didn't think I could complement the heaviness of the music. And he was like, dude, he's like, if you don't go back and continue practicing with these guys, you're stupid. Because from what I heard today, there's no doubt in my mind that if you keep going forward with this, you guys are going to get signed. And I'm like, okay, let me give it a shot. So, you know, one thing led to another. We continued to learn from each other and develop as musicians along the way. And 25 years later, here we are.
Do you miss those days? Like you just mentioned, you lived with a roommate. Like, do you miss those days where you're not looking at your Chase or Bank of America app, and you're like, "Ooh, nice."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wish I was still doing that. After the divorce, that gets more and more
Oh, that's
difficult to do. But yeah.
right.
Um, but yeah, I miss a lot about the old days. I miss the vibe of the old days. I miss the sense of rock community that we had back in the
Yeah.
old days, for sure. Everything that we alluded to, you know, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this 25th anniversary run. You know,
Yeah.
it's a ton of nostalgia, you know, in a bag.
It's
And
it's the biggest tour you've ever done, right?
yeah, it's going to be massive. I very, very excited about it. Very excited about both halves of the bill. You know, incredibly strong, from 7 Dozen 3 Days Grace to, you know, Nothing More in Daughtry. I mean, we definitely aren't, you know, inviting, you know, laid back bands on the bill,
Yeah.
bands that are going to make us feel like we have an easy time carrying the load.
Yeah.
Everybody's making us feel like we need to step up our game, and we have every intention of doing just that. So
So you're gonna have to come out early and do Angel's Song every night with Nothing More, right?
I don't know about have to,
But I
but
mean, you want to, right?
I do want to. I do
Yeah.
want to.
It's a great song.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love those guys. I have such faith in them becoming part of the next generation of hard rock headliners. I truly do believe that those guys are going to take over the reins, among with a whole bunch of other ones. There's a slew of them out there that are doing it at such an amazing level. You know, I would never be able to name all of them, but
No.
I'm certainly very, very proud of what they've done.
So March 7th, you put out the 3 disc, I guess you would call it, Sickness, which
Mhm.
has demos, and then it also has, uh, I think it's from the Metro show I was at. There's, I think, Voices is on there from that Metro show I was actually
Yeah.
at. So I'm excited about that, but it's mostly, it looks like, from a Los Angeles show.
It's from a bunch of stuff from the Palladium show way, you know, way, way long ago during, like, I believe it's the latter third of the Sickness cycle, something like that. But yeah, a lot of it is from there. A lot of really cool live stuff, live moments. And it sounds great. It's
Yeah, I
sounds
can't wait to
like,
hear it. And then you have a new song called, which is awesome, "I Will Not Break," which
thank
sounds like something from the sick. I think it sounds like something from the Sickness era. I don't know if
yeah,
that's what you guys were going for,
I
but
you know, when we create these days, brother, we're not trying to target any particular era. We're just writing from our hearts.
yeah,
And, um, you know, we can't help but gravitate towards the rhythmic, syncopated, heavily, you know, melodic type of, you know, big anthemic chorus thing. We love that. That's who
yeah.
Disturbed is. So going back to our wheelhouse is a very comfortable and very empowering thing to do. We have fun doing it, and that song was just a blast to play. I just rehearsed it with the guys, this past week. It sounded amazing. We've all got, big ass grins on our faces as we're playing it. It's a trip. And there's a lot more where that came from. We have a whole new records worth of material that we are going to be releasing piece by piece over the course of the next year or two until we finally release the whole thing. And it is incredibly strong. It's as strong as anything we've ever put out. There's definitely some more surprises in the body of work too. I'm not going to give too much away, but this lead track, I Will Not Break, I have every confidence is going to end up taking its place among the strongest of our singles out there.
Yeah, and it sounds like live that thing will really hit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you're coming off Divisive, which I think is one of your best albums. Don't
you.
Tell Me with Ann Wilson. Have you considered, since you don't have any female singers, just putting her up on the big screen for the tour? Because her her facials in that video,
Mhm.
it's like beautiful. The
I,
way you
I'm
shot the
with
video.
you. I'm with you about that. I would have a major issue just singing along to somebody on screen.
Oh yeah.
I know that there's a lot of bands that would be okay with that. For me personally, I, I got to have it live.
Yeah.
And it's not casting any judgment on those who do what they do differently. It's just how we do what we do. And I don't think I could forgive myself, and I don't think that Anne would forgive me either if I did it that way. So I think whenever we do have the opportunity to have a female guest, maybe we'll pull it back out. But for the time being, I think that baby's being put to bed, at least for the duration of this cycle coming up.
Yeah. Are there any other like Remember is a song I don't think you've played in like 14 years, and I
Yeah.
got when you see Remember live, oh, it's so great live. Like, is
Thank
that
you.
a song you might bring back? I'd love to hear that
Maybe,
again.
maybe. I love that song. That's always been one of my favorites. In fact, that was the one that I thought would go all the way on the Believe record. That was the one that I thought was going to be the biggest hit. Prayer ended up being the biggest one from that record, but I love the song. It reminds me of what a challenge it is to live this life and to try and be a musician and to, face the adversity that comes along with it and the challenges that come along with it. I love the song. So who knows? Anything's possible.
So you guys are playing the final Black Sabbath show ever, and a big part of my childhood was going to Ozfest. I went to every Ozfest, and you guys were a part of a lot of those Ozfests. Do
Yes.
you tell me about what it feels like to be at this final Black Sabbath show, and what are you doing there? I guess you don't want to ruin the surprise, but
Oh, yeah, I'm honored beyond belief, dude. I mean, there's no individual in the world who I revere more than Ozzy. He's like a father to so many of us, and the godfather of metal. Between Ozzy and Sabbath, the most seminal frontman and band for hard rock and heavy metal in existence. I've been a fan since I was a little boy. I'm just, it's still very, very surreal to see my name on that list, to be honest. I couldn't be more humbled and honored to be a part of it, and I'm going to do all I can to make my contribution as powerful as everyone else's.
what does
And
that feel like?
I wish it could be the whole band, to be honest. I wish all of Disturbed was coming there, but I will do my damnedest to represent us in their stead. I know it's definitely a packed bill.
What does it feel like when you're just looking through your phone and it's like, oh, Bruce Dickinson just sent me a text message or something? Like, is that has to be surreal, also, right?
It doesn't stop being surreal. It's funny. I ran into Bruce when we just supported Maiden in Mexico not too long ago, and I ran into him into the hotel hallway, and just knowing that we know each other to the extent that we walk up to each other and give each other a hug and shoot the shit for a little bit. That
Yeah.
of itself is surreal. It's not lost on me. I still get nervous. you know, when I meet my heroes, and he's still a hero
Yeah.
of mine. So it's still pretty incredible.
Now, we just had the Super Bowl, and next year is Super Bowl 60 at the 49ers Stadium. So if there's one year that Metallica should headline the Super Bowl, it's in their home stadium, Super Bowl 60. Now, here's my idea. You guys come out and do the Sound of Silence. Pink, Lady Gaga, because you have to have pop stars because they want more female, even though
Yep.
tons of women love hard rock and metal. That's what they claim. Oh, well, no women will watch Metallica. Yeah, right. So we bring out Lady Gaga, Pink, Miley Cyrus. You guys come out, bring out AC/DC, pyro, visuals, Metallica, Master of Puppets is huge because of Stranger Things again. That would be the greatest halftime show ever.
I'm sold, dude. Where do we sign?
Just bring out Jelly Roll and Post Malone. These are pop stars that are also like Post Malone during Nirvana was. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's so awesome.
Yeah, he did a
I mean,
great job. I love Post. I think he's incredibly talented. I would love to have the opportunity to collab with him one day. I've actually, spoken to him briefly about it. Maybe he needs a little casual reminder. We could do something amazing, dude.
hey, Post Malone, come on, let's set it up.
Yeah, and something I really want to do. I mean, Metallica's been deserving of this for decades at this point. And if there was anybody in the entire hard rock and metal world that should be playing the Super Bowl halftime show, it is Metallica. I would humbly request that I just be considered to sing the national anthem. I've been wanting to do that my whole life. And then once Metallica's had their shot, if they want to consider us a couple of years down the line to go ahead and play halftime, you can give me a call. We're available.
So it's the Sickness 25th anniversary. You're doing two complete different sets. The first one,
Right.
The entire Sickness album, right? And then the hits, right? Or whatever else you want to play.
It's the first time we've ever played the Sickness album in its entirety front to back. We've never done that before. So that in and of itself is going to be an interesting experience. And then there'll be a greatest hits set after that as well.
I'm so excited. And the new song, I Will Not Break, love the song. Like I said, it's Sickness era. I love all the eras, but it's a Sickness era. It feels that way to me. And I'm so excited, David. And I really appreciate you stopping by.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me, dude.
Thank you, man. Have a great day.
Be well, dude. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.